Alright, we're back reviewing randomly selected Doctor Who stories, aside from the 14th and 15th Doctor stories, because those are too recent. So, let's see, what does the randomizer have for us today? Oh, this is gonna be fun. The Talons of Weng Chiang is an amazingly popular Doctor Who story written by the great Robert Holmes, directed by David Maloney, who has apparently directed a lot of great Doctor Who from what I can see. Fans normally talk about the writers, but not often the directors, so I'm really glad I decided to look that up. Also, this was the last story produced by Philip Hinchcliffe, and its amazing production values are a big part of why he got fired from the job after this. Yes, there was a big controversy around the level of scariness that had come into the show under his tutelage, but the budget was a huge part as well. This DVD was originally released back when they didn't really know what they were doing with DVD releases and knowing to put in a ton of special features on, so they re-released it as a special edition, and I own both, and I've not watched any of the behind the scenes, not even for this. What am I doing? Onto the story itself. This is a story about a Chinese... Okay, the character is Chinese, but... yeah. This story has a lot of really good qualities, but this character is not one of them. Let's just be completely clear. There is no excuse for the yellow face in this. That is bad on its own, but it is genuinely made so much worse by the fact that they had Asian actors since they cast Asian people as supporting characters. So why did they feel the need to do yellowface for this character? It's so frustrating and bizarre. There is this one moment where Chiang, the yellowface guy who I've unnamed, he meets with one of the Asian supporting characters, and that guy gives a glare that I would like to imagine is the actor judging the yellowface. So, that's nice. But even outside of that, there are other racial elements to this story. The story takes a very... Western society doesn't understand Eastern ways, therefore those Eastern ways are mystical. That's an element that is present throughout the story until episode 6, where answers are much more concrete, where it says that it's an alien influence, where it's an alien that came in and pretended to be a Chinese god. So there's 5 out of 6 episodes that are showing it as a mystical thing, and then one where it goes, it was actually aliens. It's just not good. So why is this story so loved? A few reasons. Good plotting, as in the structure of the story and the reveal of the plot, showing Chiang is working for the titular Weng Chiang, who is using missing girls that basically their life force is used to fuel his own. This is creepier. Then there's also this really fun sort of cat and mouse game between the 4th Doctor and Chiang that they go through, especially when 4 is in the audience of his show, and he's essentially daring Chiang to shoot him. And of course, how could I possibly forget Jago and Lightfoot, who many years later would go on to be the titular characters of one of the best ranges of Big Finish, of which I own 1 CD, but I do have the rest on digital. The biggest thing in favor of this story is, as I mentioned earlier, the absolutely insane production design. This takes place in Victorian London, and it's all so well done. So many great sets here, including Lightfoot's house, Jago's theater, Weng Chiang's final room, the dungeon where he spends most of the time of the story. It's all genuinely beautiful. The Victorian world is so lovingly created here, with just the right amount of grime being present to make it feel like it wasn't made in a set. It's truly spectacular. It's genuinely some of the best production design in the entire classic era. The closest I can compare it to would be some later 7th Doctor stories, where they just filmed on location. The story properly starts with Chiang doing a show. We actually see several magic tricks being performed throughout the story, and as someone who went through a magic phase, and also saw the Masked Magician specials, I know these are mostly genuine magic tricks, being done for real, rather than camera tricks, which is great. That doesn't mean that they don't do camera tricks, though, which is unfortunate. For instance, early on, they cut from a levitating woman where you can pass a ring around her, and they cut to her rising off of the stage. And the techniques used for both of those effects are categorically incompatible. You cannot change from one to the other. Also, later when the Doctor is in the audience, there is a trick that I don't think is actually possible to do without camera trickery or using a stand-in audience member, which is the absolute worst kind of magic trick. It involves Chiang passing a deck of cards to the Doctor and having him pick a card, and then shooting the deck with a gun, causing just the picked card to be shot. For a story that had so many real tricks, this 1,000,000,000% faked one saddened me. Also, when the Doctor meets with Jago, he pretends to be there to want to put on a show, and he does real magic tricks. Hooray! Unfortunately, it's ones that have to be preset in some way. You can't just pull those out of nowhere. Anyway, also at the beginning, you see Mr. Sin, who is great. You can't hate a homunculus pretending to be a puppet. When backstage, you get to see some great effort by Chiang to make it look like it's actually a puppet and not its own sentient being, by having Chiang move his lips to match with the puppet, even though I'm pretty sure it is Deep Roy who plays Mr. Sin speaking there. So Chiang moving his lips really helps sell the effect. There are also some weird bits with Mr. Sin. Like in one of the shows, a sword goes near Mr. Sin's head, but it's his hand that bleeds. I'm not sure how those are directly connected. Also, later, Leela throws a knife into Mr. Sin's neck, which doesn't bleed. If you're going to introduce blood, be consistent. At least have his foot bleed or something, since you apparently bleed out of unconnected body parts. After the first show, you get the start of the mystery, with the husband of a woman who disappeared arriving asking what happened to her, because she was hypnotized at the show before she disappeared. So he realizes this must be connected. It actually is, but he has no reason to actually think that. Chiang manages to get the guy out of there while keeping Jago mostly oblivious. He does notice, like, the puppet bleeding, and that gets him looking into the investigation. I don't think this actually led him to figuring anything out. As a side note, I listened to Jago and Lightfoot before watching this, so for me, this was really interesting, especially the first time I saw it, to see him in his actual job, and there strangely weren't too many times in the audio hearing him do that. So seeing him actively working the job was nice. I didn't think he had it in him a little bit. Oh, and side note to the side note, later you see Lightfoot examining a body in his lab, and my first thought on seeing it was, this is a much smaller lab than I imagined. It is, again, excellent. It does feel like what Victorians could do as far as making a clean room for examining bodies. It's just smaller than what I expected. Of all of the great production design I've said, this is the set that probably had the least put towards it, and it does show a bit, but I will say, for a room that's only seen in one scene, that's where to go cheaper on the budget. Speaking of budgets, for an overblown budget story, I'm amazed we don't see the inside of the TARDIS at all. It's not needed, strictly speaking. I'm guessing they should have used a scene there to at least pretend and try and shrink the budget, but I don't know what I'm talking about. Oh, I'm realizing I haven't actually talked about the Doctor yet. 4 is obviously great in this. This is one where he's taking the scenario more seriously, and it works really well. I know he's more known for his fun attitude and whimsical turns of phrase, but when he takes things seriously, it works really well. He's not wearing his regular outfit, but his Sherlock Holmes one, which does work extremely well for him here. Leela is in this, and she is great as well. I love Leela. Based on how she had been talked about during the new series, I really wasn't sure what I was in for. So when I watched her, I was like, okay, what's this gonna be? But yeah, she's great. Yes, most of the time she's in a skimpy leather outfit, but I genuinely believe Louise Jameson acts beyond the outfit. Leela is much more memorable for who she is rather than what she wears. Also, she doesn't wear it in this story since the Doctor is dressed up in proper clothes. Well, proper for Victorian London, but she gets proper clothes to dress up in. I also want to say, this story has fantastic Leela moments that use her savage nature to its advantage. For instance, her protective nature comes out really well when she uses a Janus thorn on someone who is attacking the Doctor. It's a very proactive defense of the Doctor. Maybe she should cut down on the murder, but that is how a savage would try and help. I also love moments that show her intelligence. Like when the doctor's explaining how Wang Chiang is rejuvenating himself, but it works less well each time he does it, she's able to break it down in ways she can understand by comparing it to a water skin that has a hole in it that gets bigger the more times it's filled. She was doing that throughout the classic era, and I think it's great. Lastly, a beautiful moment between her and Jago, when the doctor leaves her there as he investigates something. I'm not really sure why. Jago has set out food for everyone, including giant legs of meat. Leela, being a savage, picks it up and eats it straight off the bone, like that's how you should do that. Lightfoot then shows the height of class by not making her feel like she has done anything wrong or incorrect, by making her feel welcome by reflecting what she is doing. He picks his leg of meat up and starts eating it directly off the bone as well, with Leela not even knowing that she's technically eating improperly. This is one of my favorite Leela moments throughout the entire show. It's great. The actual solution to the mystery involves Wang Chiang getting a cabinet out of Lightfoot's house that he can use for time travel and get back to his own time. And I should say that I read somewhere that this was originally supposed to be the Master. It makes sense, but I actually do like that they abandoned that idea and made this villain original. It makes the world feel bigger than just having the Doctor and the Master keep meeting over and over and over and over again, as much as I do like the Master. But Wang Chiang, aka Magnus Greel, the Butcher of Brisbane, he's a really fun villain that feels really different and interesting while existing within the outline of the Master that the late change in the script sort of forced to still remain there. I would say that this story's biggest legacy is obviously Jago and Lightfoot. Once they meet up towards the end of the story, that's when the real magic happens. It's no wonder that Big Finish would go on to make a fantastic range of audios based around their characters. They just work together so spectacularly. Overall, this is a story that the more I see it, the less I like it. I don't usually watch any individual Doctor Who story often too many times, but the more I learn about the world and its racist history, the more things that are in this story stand out and actively prevent me from enjoying it. This has, like I said, some really good moments. It has great supporting characters and some of the best production design I have seen in a Doctor Who story, and as a fan of magic, I love the magic tricks used in this. The Victorian setting is great, but it's all built off of a racist stereotype in the yellow-faced villain and the mystical elements of a culture that you simply don't understand. That unfortunately just really weighs this story down, in my opinion, and I'm probably not going to watch it too many more times just to let it be as good as it is in my head right now, which is unfortunate for a story that, like I said, has a lot going for it. But still, Jago and Lightfoot are great. Listen to this audio series. Once they meet up towards the end of the story, that's when the real